In addition to more IGF-1 in the milk, there's also more bovine growth hormone. Now, the researchers claimed that this hormone was largely destroyed during pasteurization, but it turns out they pasteurized the milk 120 times longer than normal. The drug also increases an infection, a painful infection in the udder called mastitis, and this in turn increases the amount of pus in the milk.
Because of the mastitis, dairy farmers use more antibiotics, and this cannot help but increase antibiotic resistance in humans, which is a major increasing health problem.
So, for example, if you drank milk that had residues of erythromycin in it, then bacteria in your stomach could pick up resistance to that erythromycin, so that if you came down with an illness, you wouldn't be able to use erythromycin to treat.
Dr. Michael Hansen is a scientist with Consumers Union, the publisher of Consumer Reports.
Dr. Hansen and some members of Congress received an anonymous letter, allegedly from FDA employees, claiming that there was fraud and conflict of interest at the FDA. So with all of these different changes in the milk, the IGF-1, the bovine growth hormone, the antibiotics, and the pus, who do you suppose wrote the disclaimer for the FDA claiming that the agency said that there's no difference? It was Monsanto's former attorney, Michael Taylor, who was in charge of FDA policy from 1991 to 94 before becoming Monsanto's vice president.
Most organizations went along with the FDA's initial approval because they trusted them in the approval process. The American Medical Association supported passage of rBGH. However, a year later, their Council on Scientific Affairs came out with a statement saying that IGF-1 needed to be studied further.
Ron Davis, president of the American Medical Association, wrote on April 24, 2008, that hospitals should use milk produced without recombinant bovine growth hormone.
The National Institutes of Health had indicated that the IGF-1 issue needs a little more looking at. The American Cancer Society, some spokesperson had made a statement, and I went to that spokesperson and I said, have you really signed off on this? And he said, no, we think that the IGF-1 issue probably needs some more investigation.
Another big concern is that rBGH can be devastating to the health of cows. But according to Congressman John Conyers, Monsanto and the FDA have chosen to suppress and manipulate animal health test data in efforts to approve commercial use of BGH.
They just went out and skewed the data. So yeah, it was bad science and bad regulation.
Documents stolen from the FDA and later made public show that when Monsanto's researchers wanted to prove that injections did not interfere with cows' fertility, they apparently added cows to the study that were pregnant before they ever got injected.
Charles Knight is one of many farmers who say rBGH burns out cows, shortening their lives by maybe 2 years.
And about that same time is when we started having a lot of foot trouble. We dealt with that, and that's where we lost a lot of our cows, is through they got so crippled they couldn't walk.
Knight says he replaced 75% of his herd due to hoof problems and mastitis. He says when he called Monsanto, they never mentioned company research that showed hundreds of cows on other farms were suffering from the same issues.
It was overwhelming because they said, you're the only person that's having this problem, so it's got to be what you're doing.
While it appears that Monsanto wanted to deny the problems with cows' health, now these side effects are listed right on the product warning label.
This is actually the package insert, and on the back are listed all the 16 different medical conditions that can be associated in cows.
So it's very difficult on the cows, and virtually every animal protection agency in the country has criticized rBGH.
Monsanto works really hard to stop negative coverage on rBGH. They had a PR firm, and that PR firm created this dairy coalition, and they bragged in their internal memos how they had gotten a reporter taken off the case at the New York Times so that the link between rBGH and cancer was never reported. They also talked about how they went after USA Today and many other papers trying to suppress any negative news coverage. In 1997, Fox Television was going to run its 4-part news series on rBGH, but 2 letters from Monsanto's attorney, one promising dire consequences to Fox and its owner, ultimately canceled the series, and the reporters were fired.
In fact, a lawyer for Fox said this story isn't worth a couple $100,000 to go up against Monsanto.
In recent years, several organizations have been educating consumers about the health risks of rBGH, and it's having a profound impact.
Company after company is going rBGH-free in response to consumer demand. rBGH is a house of cards, and the foundation of rBGH is consumer ignorance. Because once consumers find out about the problems associated with this hormone, then they don't want to have anything to do with it, and they vote with their dollars and start buying rBGH-free products.
Healthcare Without Harm, which is an international coalition of over 400 organizations dedicated to safe and healthy practices in hospitals, issued a formal position statement opposing rBGH. We're now currently seeing hospitals all over the country going rBGH-free.
Many schools have banned rBGH, and that's critical because children are most at risk from the potential dangers.
Even minute fluctuations in hormones can be very important in growth and development. So this is especially concerning for children.
And for her, now that she's eating regular people food, we want to give her as much good stuff without the chemical additives as possible.
I'm talking to you today as a physician, but also as a mother. I have a beautiful 15-month-old boy, and it's one of my top priorities to make sure that he grows up to be as healthy as possible. So I want to avoid rBGH, and I only purchase rBGH-free products.
There are two kinds of rBGH-free products. First, there's organic. Organic, by definition, will not allow the use of this hormone. Second are conventional rBGH-free products, and again, look at the label.
We have several examples of rBGH-free labeling. The first is from Alpenrose Dairy, and they note rBST free. Dairy Gold notes this milk comes from cows not treated with the growth hormone rBST. Ben & Jerry's ice cream makers note, we oppose recombinant bovine growth hormone.
When Ben & Jerry's became one of the first companies to label their products, some people criticized this as just a way to sell more of their ice cream.
You know, so if you want to say it's in our self-interest, yeah, we want to keep our customers alive. You know, they eat more when they're alive.
We think we've reached a tipping point with rBGH, that this will snowball and that at some point in the not too distant future will be rBGH free. By the same token, we can see the same thing happening with genetically engineered foods in general. The same challenge is educating the public. Once people realize about the health and environmental risks of genetically engineered foods in general, the same thing will happen.
The whole story of GE, or genetically engineered foods, including soy, corn, cottonseed, and canola, it's just like the rBGH story. Monsanto's former attorney was in charge of policy at the FDA, company research was rigged, news coverage was suppressed, and the entire population is exposed. And just as dangerous as rBGH is for health, the dangers of GE foods may be even more damaging.
The Institute for Responsible Technology and its coalition partners are pioneering the campaign for healthier eating in America, which is designed to end the genetic engineering of the food supply.
But just as consumer education hit the tipping point on rBGH, so too the campaign for healthier eating in America is expected to hit the tipping point to drive GMOs out of our food supply. What we need is to get the information out to more parents, more schools, more consumers, so we can all eat healthier, non-genetically engineered diets.
To learn more about rBGH, genetically engineered foods, and the campaign for healthier eating in America, see www.responsibletechnology.org.